I'm sure someone in your life, whether it's your mother, your neighbor, or a friend, has told you at some point, "Don't put bread in the freezer, it causes cancer." And you paused, unsure whether to believe it or not. The information came with such certainty and alarm, so it's understandable that you hesitated. What's illogical is that people make entire health decisions based on a WhatsApp forward or a 30-second TikTok video without asking, "What's the source? Who said this? Where's the evidence?" Today, we're going to do exactly that. We'll explore this topic from all angles: scientific, medical, and social. We'll see what actually happens when you put bread in the freezer, the truth about carcinogens, and how to distinguish between justified fear and unfounded fear. Stay tuned. This episode will change the way you think about the medical information you receive. Before we talk about bread, let's understand why medical misinformation spreads so quickly. A 2018 study published in the journal Science revealed that fake news spreads online 6 times faster than accurate news. This isn't a coincidence. It happens because humans are naturally more likely to react to what scares or surprises them than to what reassures them. Medical misinformation succeeds for several reasons. First, fear. When someone tells you that something you do every day can cause cancer, your brain freezes on that statement. Cancer is a terrifying word, and just seeing it in a sentence makes you take it seriously. Second, generalization. The information is presented vaguely and broadly. Instead of saying a certain type of storage under certain conditions, it says freezers cause cancer, and that's it. This generality makes people feel that the information is clear and obvious. Third, the social chain. When your mother or a trusted friend sends you information, you don't think about the original source. You think about the person who sent it. Trust is transferred along with the information. Fourth, the lack of quick refutation. There's nothing as simple and quick as the information itself to say, "No, that's wrong." Scientific correction requires explanation, and people get bored before they even finish it. What we're going to do today is continue this explanation in an enjoyable and simplified way so that the correct information is readily available in your mind. Let's start with the scientific basics. What happens to bread when it goes into the freezer? Bread is basically made of starch, protein, water, and yeast. When we put bread in the freezer at a temperature of 15 to 18 degrees Celsius, one essential thing happens. The water inside the bread freezes. As water freezes, almost all biological processes cease. Bacteria stop multiplying, fungi stop growing, and the enzymes that cause spoilage are deactivated. Keep this important point in mind. The freezer doesn't kill bacteria, but it does stop their activity. It's like putting a glass of water in the freezer. The water doesn't disappear, it's just temporarily transformed into a different form. When food is reheated, the bacteria that were present can resume their activity, but in regular bread, this amount is usually not a problem. On a chemical level, freezing doesn't create new substances or break down bread molecules in a way that generates harmful compounds. The chemical bonds in bread require high temperatures to break and transform into other compounds, and freezing is the complete opposite. So, if freezers caused cancer, would all the frozen food companies in the World Health Organization, and the US FDA have remained silent? Impossible. Freezing is a food preservation method that has been used for thousands of years in various forms, and since the 20th century in its modern form. Not a single reliable scientific study has linked frozen bread to any specific type of cancer. A very important question, not just, is this true, but where did this idea even come from? When you trace this information, you find that it stems from a confusion between 3 completely different things. The first confusion is between freezing and acrylamide. There is a substance called acrylamide, and it is indeed a chemical compound that has been studied as a potential carcinogen. But how is acrylamide formed? It forms when starchy foods like potatoes and bread are exposed to very high temperatures above 120 degrees Celsius, such as frying, roasting, or grilling. So the problem is the excessive heat, not the freezing itself. The two are opposites. The second confusion is between freezing and reheating in a microwave. Some people confuse the frozen bread itself with the method of reheating it. If used correctly, a microwave is perfectly safe, but if someone is afraid of microwaves and applies that fear to the freezer, they get confused. The third confusion is between mold and cancer. Some types of mold, like aflatoxin, can indeed be harmful, but this mold happens when bread is left at room temperature with humidity, not when it's in the freezer. On the contrary, the freezer stops mold growth. So, the bottom line is that people have become afraid of freezers because of misconceptions related to entirely different things. What causes problems is overburning, unnoticed mold, and spoiled food that wasn't frozen properly. Let's talk with facts and figures. The World Health Organization recognizes freezing as one of the safest methods of food preservation. And in its food safety reports, freezing is explicitly mentioned as a reliable way to maintain food quality. The US FDA and the European Food Safety Authority agree that freezing bread and baked goods does not produce harmful compounds, and that the process is purely physical and does not affect the chemical composition of the food. In a study published in the journal Food Chemistry, researchers studied the chemical changes in bread during freezing and after thawing. The results showed that the changes were at the level of the starch crystal structure, which affects taste and texture but does not create any harmful compounds. Bread frozen may be less soft, and its taste may change slightly. This is a change in quality, not food safety. The important difference here is that food safety means whether it will harm you, and the answer is that the freezer is safe. Food quality, on the other hand, means whether it will be tasty, and in this case, freezing might only affect the taste and texture. From a purely medical perspective, doctors and nutritionists explain that the human body is not affected by the method of preserving bread as long as the bread itself was not spoiled before freezing. The digestive system processes thawed bread in exactly the same way it processes fresh bread. We mentioned that acrylamide is the substance that can actually be harmful, so let's talk about it clearly so you understand it correctly. Acrylamide is a chemical compound that forms naturally when starch is toasted at high temperatures. This occurs in many foods we eat daily, such as French fries, biscuits, burnt or over-toasted bread, and coffee. Does this mean that toast is dangerous? Well, it's relative. Accidental exposure to small amounts of acrylamide, which occurs in normal daily food, has not been scientifically proven to directly cause cancer in humans. Existing studies have been conducted on animals and at very high doses. The practical advice here is that if you toast your bread, keep it lightly golden, not black. It's the black, burnt part that's best to avoid, not the freezer. To be fair, there are indeed some things related to bread that are preserved, but not from the freezer. First, mold after thawing. When you take bread out of the freezer and leave it exposed to air and humidity, mold can grow on it quickly. Some types of mold produce harmful substances like aflatoxins. The solution is simple. Use the bread immediately after thawing and don't let it mold. Second, refreezing bread. Refreezing more than once noticeably affects quality. While there's no immediate safety risk, the quality deteriorates significantly. Third, excessively long storage. Even in the freezer, bread has a reasonable shelf life of approximately 1 to 3 months. After that, its quality declines noticeably. Fourth, artificial preservatives in some types of bread. This is a completely different issue. Some commercially produced breads, not traditional Egyptian bread, may contain preservatives that warrant attention. This is entirely separate from freezing. If you're going to freeze your bread, which is an excellent and healthy choice, do so. First, the bread must be fresh before freezing. If the bread is spoiled or moldy, freezing won't cure it. Put it in the freezer and you'll be fine. Secondly, wrap the bread in plastic wrap or place it in a tightly sealed freezer bag. This prevents freezer burn, a phenomenon where the surface dries out and affects the taste and texture, but not the bread's safety. Thirdly, divide the bread into portions that you can use all at once. There's no need to leave the whole kilo in the freezer. Take some out and then refreeze the rest. Fourthly, regular and wholemeal bread will keep for about 3 months in the freezer, while fancy breads or tortillas will keep for 1 to 2 months. Fifthly, the best way to heat it is in the oven or toaster at a moderate temperature. A microwave is also fine if you need it quickly. And another point, don't toast it until it turns black. The next point is even more important than the bread itself. How do you deal with medical information you receive? The first question is, who said that? Look for the original source. If the information came from a random page or WhatsApp forwarding, stop. If it came from a recognized health organization like the WHO, Mayo Clinic, or WebMD, then fine. The second question is there a study that supports it? Any serious medical claim must be backed by a peer-reviewed study published in a scientific journal. If there isn't one, be skeptical. The third question, does the information make sense? Apply simple logic. If freezing causes cancer, then all frozen foods in the world should be a problem. Does that make sense? No. The fourth question, search on Google Scholar, which provides free scientific studies. Search using English keywords and see what the researchers are actually saying. In this episode, we've taken a complete journey from myth to science to practical application. The bottom line is this: storing bread in the freezer is perfectly safe, and there is not a single reliable scientific proof that it causes cancer, either directly or indirectly. What really deserves your attention is burnt black bread, bread discolored with mold, and spoiled food. As for the freezer, it's your friend, not your enemy. Next time someone tells you, the freezer causes cancer, smile calmly and say, just a moment, I'll explain. If this video provided you with useful information, please share it with someone close to you so that accurate information reaches as many people as possible. And as always, if you have any medical questions, consult a specialist, not WhatsApp. See you in the next episode.